What would happen if the power went out everywhere and stayed out? No lights, no phone, no TV, no ATM. Well, if you are fortunate enough to live in one of our strong, diverse urban areas, you can expect that within 3 days, rioting and looting will have cleaned out every store in the city. Within 3 weeks, those not murdered by roving gangs will likely die from the diseases coming from the thousands of dead bodies lying in the streets. Within 3 months, cities will be burnt out ruins haunted by cannibals. It didn't have to be like this, but our governments and their schools have ensured that most people have no survival skills and have no idea of self-reliance. Those living in rural communities will have a better chance to survive, but they will have to live like people lived before electricity, in the 1880s, which wasn't so bad. I know, I grew up in the 1880s. You see, my public and middle schools were close to Black Creek Pioneer Village. Over 9 years and countless school field trips and personal visits, I learned many of the skills that were common knowledge 140 years ago. I learned the basics of how to spin wool and weave cloth, how to make a horseshoe in a blacksmith's shop, how to make candles and bake bread, how to tap maple trees and boil down the sap into syrup. With the exception of those pioneer recreation villages and Amish communities, these skills have been lost to the general public, which is why I have always looked for old books that contain lost lore, just in case I would ever need those skills. One book I found was the Household Cyclopedia of Useful and Domestic Arts, originally published in 1881 by Dr. Hartshorne. It is a compilation of the most useful skills, knowledge, instructions, and recipes of his time. This knowledge is what allowed people to live relatively comfortable lives, and it is the same knowledge that would be needed to survive when, not if, our society collapses. I could only find a digital scan, which was terrible, and no hard copies are available, so in a labor of love, I converted the scan into text, added a linked table of contents, and an extensive index. I created a book design with type fonts and layouts that was easier to read, and even created a glossary of terms, since even I didn't know what many of the words meant. I have read the book, and I have to be honest. While it was meant as a general book on home knowledge for people living in the 1880s, it's not a book for modern city dwellers. The basic knowledge of self-reliance of those living 140 years ago dwarfs anything people know today. But if the power goes out, and your survival depends on learning these lost arts, then this book would be an invaluable reference.